Town hall with several community leaders to discuss a problem over the new Juvenile Justice Center in Douglas County.
Our Marla Lundak joins us with a debrief of the situation.
Douglas County commissioners are voting tomorrow on whether to delay moving juvenile offenders to the brand new, roughly $27 million Juvenile Justice Center in downtown Omaha by at least 6 months.
Long story short, I just don't think we're ready.
The new facility can hold a maximum of 64, and the goal is that when it opens, it will only use 80% of the beds. County Commissioner Mike Friend says as of this morning, there were 73 juveniles in the current facility. He adds that it's simply a math problem, and he supports delaying the move.
And then it gives us an opportunity, I think, opportunities to actually look at the Juvenile Justice Center and say, are we going to run 2 facilities for a certain period of time? Are we just going to run one? And if we're only going to run one downtown, how long is it going to take for us to actually meet, the requirements that facility demands?
If the vote doesn't pass, juveniles will begin moving to the new center on November 1st, and the old facility will close by the end of January. Friend says the county board's job is to deal with infrastructure and capacity, and believes that's what this vote deals with.
If the judges determine that this amount of youth are actually going to be detained, there's just not that much we can do about it. So we need to be ready from a public safety standpoint, and we need to be ready from an implementation standpoint and what the county's authority and capability really is to deal with those numbers.
It would cost the county up to $3 million per year to run both facilities, and that's just one of the potential options commissioners are facing.
That's where public opinion helps commissioners like us and other public officials, people who make policy. It helps us make those decisions. What's most important to you? If it costs us $2.5 million to make sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure, then that's what we're going to have to be dealing with, and that's what we have to communicate, to the citizens of Douglas County.
On your site in Douglas County, Marlo Lundak, 6 News.
You can give your opinion to community leaders right now. There's a phone number on your screen. County Attorney Don Klein, Sheriff Aaron Hansen, and Omaha Police Union President Tony Connor are holding a telephone town hall meeting. It's designed to address your concerns. You can call the number that you see on the screen with any questions.